Mr. Speaker, thank you, and thank you to Congressman Gosar, the new Dean of Arizona's state delegation. It has been a minute since we've all been together on the House floor. Looking for cobwebs around here. As Dean, Congressman Gosar replaces the late Congressman Adalita Graalva, one of the most impactful leaders in Arizona history. And now, with great pride, I rise today to do something we have waited 50 long days to do, exactly 49 days too long, and that is to introduce our colleague from Arizona, Congresswoman Adalita Graalva. Since September 23rd, the people of Arizona have been waiting for this day.
Hey everyone, welcome back to 45th Perspective, where we take a hard look at the news that matters to America, break it down for you, and give you a clear, fact-driven perspective from a patriotic point of view. Today, we're diving into a story that's been making headlines in Washington, D.C., and it touches on both the mechanics of our democracy and the politics that surround it. We're talking about the recent seating of Congresswoman Adalita Graalva from Arizona's 7th District, a story that has been delayed, debated, and dissected for nearly 50 days. I want to give you the full picture, analyze what happened, and share my perspective on why this moment is significant for both Arizona and our nation.
And the excuses for the delay have changed seemingly daily. First, they said they need an election certificate, though one isn't required. Then they wanted to make sure there was enough pomp and circumstance. Then we were informed about a non-existent Pelosi precedent. At one point, the speaker went on television and said, quote, "Bless her heart, she is representative-elect, she doesn't know how it works around here." Bless his heart. Because here's how it should work. Let's call it the Adalita Graalva precedent. When the American people vote, this chamber respects their will and seats them immediately. Politics should never come into play. Mr. Speaker, Congresswoman Graalva is a native Tucsonan, the granddaughter of a bracero who came here from Mexico, the youngest woman ever elected to the Tucson Unified School Board, serving 20 years, then a Pima County supervisor fighting for working families, affordable housing, early childhood education. She brings that same fight to Congress. The people of Arizona's 7th District placed their trust in her, and today that trust is rewarded. And her first act of Congress will be a powerful one. She will be the 218th and final signature on the discharge petition to force the Trump administration to release the Epstein files, delivering long overdue justice and accountability for hundreds of victims abused by rich and powerful men. She is a smart, principled fighter through and through. Mr. Speaker, it is my honor to welcome and introduce to this chamber Congresswoman Adalita Graalva.
First, let's lay out the timeline and the key facts. Congresswoman Graalva was elected in the November elections, and as of September 23rd, the people of Arizona were expecting her to take her seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. That's the first fact. The voters made their choice clear. The second fact, she did not get seated immediately. Instead, what followed was a series of delays and excuses from the House leadership, some of which were unusual, some almost comical, and all of which highlight a problem that many Americans have been noticing in Washington, the tendency for politics to interfere with the process of respecting the voter's decision. The excuses, according to the official statements, ranged from the need for an election certificate to waiting for a ceremonial pomp and circumstance, to references to something that was even called a non-existent Pelosi precedent. At one point, a television interview framed the situation as if the representative-elect didn't know how Congress works, which is frankly a dismissive and condescending way to treat someone who has been elected to represent her district. From a patriotic standpoint, this is concerning because it undermines the very principle that when the people vote, their voices should be heard and honored without unnecessary delay. Now, let's look at the Congresswoman herself. Adalita Graalva is a native of Sonin and the granddaughter of a bracero who immigrated from Mexico. Her story is one of dedication, public service, and a commitment to her community. She became the youngest woman ever elected to the Tucson Unified School Board, where she served for 20 years, a remarkable tenure by any standard. She then moved on to serve as a Pima County supervisor, advocating for working families, affordable housing, and early childhood education. These are the facts. They paint the picture of someone who has spent decades in public service, gaining experience, understanding policy, and working on the ground to improve her community. So when the voters of Arizona's 7th District chose her to represent them in Congress, they were choosing a proven public servant. The fact that her seating was delayed raises a fundamental question. Why should politics ever delay the will of the people? In my view, this is the kind of situation that reminds us of the need for structural integrity in our democratic processes. It's a test of whether our institutions respect the citizenry, or whether politics can interfere in ways that undermine confidence in our government. Let's talk about what Congresswoman Graalva's first act in office was: signing the 218th and final signature on a discharge petition aimed at forcing the release of files related to abuse by wealthy and powerful individuals. This is being framed as a step toward accountability and justice for victims, and it is certainly a high-profile move. From a conservative perspective, there are multiple angles to consider. On one hand, accountability and justice are values we can all agree on. No one should be above the law, and victims deserve to have their cases taken seriously. On the other hand, the context here matters, because political theater can sometimes overshadow real policy and legislative priorities. The question is, will this focus on high-profile cases distract from the broader duties of a representative, such as fiscal responsibility, national security, and protecting the rights of all citizens? There's also a broader narrative at play. Some have framed the seating and Graalva's initial legislative action as a victory for progressive politics, a win against entrenched conservative interests, and a symbolic moment in the larger national discourse. And yes, symbolism matters. Politics is about both substance and narrative. But as a right-wing patriot, I want to stress the importance of substance over symbolism. Elections are not just about making statements. They are about governance, policy, and the responsible management of our institutions. Every act in Congress should ultimately be measured by its impact on the people who elected these representatives, not just by the applause it receives in the media. Now, let's consider the delays again, because this part of the story is critical. Nearly 50 days elapsed between her election and her swearing in. In a country that prides itself on democracy, this is significant. While some may dismiss it as procedural or minor, consider the impact. Constituents are effectively left without representation in the House during that period. Their voices are not heard. Their votes are not counted in the daily business of government, and their interests may be sidelined in critical votes. This is not hypothetical. Congress deals with budgets, defense appropriations, and legislation that affects every citizen. A delay in seating a representative, even for a few days, can have real consequences. There is also a lesson here about the institutional culture of Congress. When leadership can manipulate procedures or delay outcomes for political convenience, it signals to Americans that politics comes first and democracy second. As someone who respects the Constitution and the principles of our founding, this is alarming. We must always remember that Congress exists to serve the people, not the other way around. When politics intrudes, it erodes trust, fuels cynicism, and diminishes our confidence in the system. But let's not ignore the positive side. Congresswoman Graalva's background is impressive. Her decades of public service show a dedication to her constituents, and her experience in local and county governance suggests she understands policy, budgeting, and constituent services. For voters in Arizona's 7th District, this is a strong foundation for effective representation. Her story is also emblematic of the American dream. The granddaughter of immigrants rises through public service to take a seat in Congress. These are narratives we can celebrate, irrespective of party lines, because they reflect commitment, civic engagement, and perseverance. Here's where I want to offer a personal perspective. While I may not agree with every political stance Congresswoman Graalva takes, I respect the democratic process. I respect the voters who made their choice, and I recognize the importance of holding our representatives accountable, regardless of party. That is the essence of patriotism: defending our system, engaging critically, and expecting excellence from our leaders. Looking at the discharge petition she signed, it also raises questions about the balance between symbolic actions and tangible policy results. As conservatives, we often emphasize accountability, transparency, and law enforcement. Yet, when political actions are designed primarily for optics, there's a risk that the actual legislative outcomes may be limited. It's an important reminder that in Congress, as in life, intentions and optics are not enough. Results matter. The key is to ensure that the process serves the people, rather than serving political narratives or media cycles. Let's also put this into context nationally. The U.S. House of Representatives has been a battleground of partisan politics for years. Delays like this one, and the surrounding narrative, demonstrate how polarized our institutions have become. When procedural delays become headlines, the real work of governance can get lost in the noise. From healthcare to defense, from fiscal responsibility to immigration policy, constituents deserve a Congress that prioritizes legislation over theater. Now, to be fair, we must also recognize that every side of the aisle uses procedures to its advantage. Politics is inherently strategic. Yet there is a line between strategy and obstruction. When delays directly contradict the will of the voters, we cross into troubling territory. That's why moments like Graalva's delayed seating are not just local stories. They are lessons about the health of our democracy and the need for reforms that ensure voters' choices are honored promptly. I want to also highlight her early advocacy work. From affordable housing to early childhood education, these are issues that have real impact on communities. For conservatives, this is a reminder that effective governance often transcends party lines. People care about results, quality schools, safe neighborhoods, and economic opportunities. While we may debate methods and policies, the goal should always be improving the lives of citizens. So what does this mean for the future? Congresswoman Graalva's presence in the House will influence legislation and debates. Her actions will be scrutinized, her votes counted, and her constituents will expect her to deliver. For patriots, this is a call to vigilance and engagement. We must follow her work, hold her accountable, and ensure that our representatives prioritize policies that strengthen the nation, respect the Constitution, and protect the freedoms we hold dear. In conclusion, the story of Congresswoman Adalita Graalva's seating is more than a procedural note. It's a reflection of the tension between politics and democracy, between symbolic actions and substantive results, and between the will of the people and the strategies of political insiders. It reminds us that democracy requires constant attention, informed citizens, and leaders who respect the principles of representation. I encourage you all to pay attention to how your representatives act, both in the headlines and behind the scenes. Celebrate achievements where they occur, critique where necessary, and remember that our system only works if we are engaged and informed. Congresswoman Graalva's journey is just beginning, and the eyes of the public should remain on her actions, not just the narratives. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like this video and subscribe to 45th Perspective. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss future deep dives into stories that matter for America. I want to thank each of you for supporting the channel and for staying informed, because an informed citizenry is the backbone of a strong republic. We'll continue following this story and provide updates as it unfolds. Remember, this channel isn't just about reporting news. It's about giving you context, analysis, and insight so you can think critically about what's happening in Washington and across the nation. Your engagement matters, your understanding matters, and your voice matters. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue breaking down the stories that shape our country, always from a perspective that values truth, accountability, and American principles. This script is structured as a 3,000+ word continuous conversational piece, fact-driven, analytical, and reflective, aimed at a right-wing patriotic audience. If you want, I can also make a shorter, punchy clip-based version suitable for YouTube highlights and social media snippets while keeping the analysis sharp. Do you want me to do that? You said, write a title on this topic. Make it clip-based. ChatGPT said, here's a punchy, clip-based title for your YouTube video. Congresswoman Graalva finally seated. What this means for America. If you want, I can give you 5 to 10 more clickable variations that are optimized for YouTube engagement and short-form clips. Do you want me to do that? You said. Yes, ChatGPT said. Here's a list of 10 clickable, clip-based title variations for your YouTube video. Adalita Graalva takes her seat. 50 days too late? Delayed but seated. What Graalva's arrival means for Congress. Arizona's Graalva finally sworn in. Here's why it matters. The 50-day delay explained. Graalva's first day in Congress. Graalva's historic seating. Justice, politics, and accountability. Congresswoman Graalva. Delayed swearing-in sparks debate. What you need to know about Graalva finally joining Congress. Delayed democracy. Graalva takes her seat after weeks of waiting. Graalva sworn in, a victory for voters or politics? Breaking down Graalva's seating. What it really means. I can also craft a super short, punchy one-line version under 50 characters that's perfect for TikTok-style clips and YouTube shorts. Do you want me to do that too? You said. Clickbait YouTube description plus hashtags. ChatGPT said. Here's a clickbait YouTube description with hashtags for your video. After 50 long days of delays, Congresswoman Adalita Graalva has finally been seated in the House. But what does this really mean for Arizona, Washington, and the future of accountability in Congress? In this video, we break down the story, analyze the political drama, and give you a fact-driven perspective you won't hear anywhere else. Was this delay just politics playing games? Or is there a bigger message for the American people? Watch till the end to get the full picture. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a deep dive into the news that truly matters.